Oh, oh, thank you. And then I just have one more thing, and then I'm going to call you forward. Do you want to sit up at the front, or do you want to do I think I'll get honestly.
ยืนหลังแล้วเนี่ยโชคคุณเนี่ย
Hello. Ooh, mic test. Can everyone hear? Oh, amazing. I'm going to have a chair to one side for our author. So whenever Pim, when you're ready, you can come on forward. That makes a lot of sense. Thank you all for coming out on this sunny Tuesday for an extraordinary novel. To tell you more about it, we are going to hear from Kim herself, but before that, I'm going to ask you to take a wee seat, and I'm going to invite someone up to say a few words first. So, can I invite you up, and will you all join me in giving a very warm welcome to Lauren? So, I'm but a mouthpiece. I have been sent a few words to read out from Liza, yes, which is Pim's agent. It's awkward doing this with my left hand. You will probably cry. Yeah. One of David's infamous TikToks. For a bit of context, I am LR Lam, and I was Pim's teacher and lecturer at Edinburgh Napier and mentor, and I saw the very first lines of what would become The Moon Represents My Heart. And I was like, I'm pretty sure this is going to get published, and so now I'm just insufferably smug. So, from Liza, I'm so sorry I cannot be there tonight in person to celebrate with you all. I'm afraid I'm on a holiday trip that was planned during the height of the COVID pandemic and has been 2 years in the making. It was also 2 years ago, when the world was starting to change, that I received 2 emails in one day about a special manuscript. The first came from the author L.R. Lamb. The email was short and sweet and simply asked that I keep a lookout for a submission that was coming through. There was a tone to Elle's words that made me search out that second email in my submissions inbox immediately. Lo and behold, it was from a writer named Pim, and she had a story she wanted to share. I remember reading the first few pages of The Moon Represents My Heart and being blown away by the sheer power of writing. I kept going and was introduced to characters in a story that had changed my life. When the world was dark and uncertain during COVID, the Wang family reminded me what it is like to live life to the fullest and love time and time again, even if it breaks your heart. Not only did I fall in love with this book, but so did Pim's editor, Juliet Mabey at One World, and she has championed this throughout the publication. Publishers in Indonesia, Italy, Russia, Thailand, the US, and the wonderful TV producers at 21 Laps, and the incredible actress Gemma Chan all see, all see the magic in Pim's writing too. It has been an incredible joy and pleasure working with her. So thank you, Pim, and to Elle for your recommendation, hair flip, for your beautiful writing and a story I will never, ever forget. Congratulations and enjoy this time celebrating. You deserve every second of it. Cheers to Pim and The Moon Represents My Heart.
First of all, I want to thank everyone for coming, like all my friends and even like people I don't know for like showing up. Like I'm really grateful. So this is my first this. So it's a little bit like nerve-wracking. It's a little bit daunting. But so thank you so much for to everyone for coming, for like supporting me, like all my friends, like my family is here, like from Thailand. So that means a lot to me. So I'm supposed to give you all like a bit of a talk about the book. So yes, so this is The Moon Represents My Heart. For people of Chinese heritage, you guys will recognize the name of the book as the name of a famous song. by Teresa Tang, or as we call her in Thai, like Deng Li Jin. So it's I think the Chinese name is Yelin Tai Biwa Dishu. I think I'm not I can't speak Chinese, but yes. So this book started when I was living in Edinburgh, actually. So I had the idea for this book when I was going through just before lockdown started. So I was going through this reflective period in my life when I was thinking a lot about what has brought me to this moment and like the decisions I've made and all of that, like what made me the person I am today. And that brought me back a lot to my family, especially like my parents and my grandparents, and specifically to my own dad and my granddad. And at first, it was supposed to be just like a father and son story, kind of like that the Asian version of the Hollywood like film when with the white dad and the white son, where the son goes like, "It's not your dream, dad. It's like it's not my dream, dad. It's yours." It's supposed to be my Asian version of that. And then it grew into more of like a family story, like incorporating the mother characters as well and the sister. And so basically I wrote a book inspired by my time living in London. So I lived in London for 4 years, and there's a very specific kind of experience and a specific kind of loneliness when you're an Asian person from the East and you're living in London and you're living in the UK far from home. There's a cultural displacement that happens. So a lot of the book is about that. And I found myself writing about loss a lot, about grief, losing relationships and losing people in your life, not necessarily to death, but also to just people moving in and out of your life. And so I was thinking a lot about my history and my past, and then to the point where I felt like I was stuck in the past. And that made me think about the premise of what would happen if someone were to become addicted to traveling back in time and they can't move to the present or they can't move forward to the future because all they're doing is ruminating on their past. And what would that look like? So this book was born. So this book is about a family of British Chinese time travelers. The parents are named Joshua and Lily, and the children are called Tommy and Eva. And the premise of the book, the story starts when the parents, Joshua and Lily, travel back in time, and they, for some unexplained reason, they don't come back. And it's about how the children cope with that loss and how do they deal with their own abilities to travel back in time as well. And while we follow the story of the children, we also follow the stories of the parents as the dad Joshua grows up in Hong Kong, and then he moves over to UK and meets Lily, the mother, and how they start to fall in love and form a family. So, like I said, a lot of it was based on my own time living in London, but also based on a lot of my family history. My father grew up in Hong Kong, and my father had the experience of going into the Kowloon War City, which is a very specific place in history. So all of that is in the book. And while I was writing it, I also had the opportunity to research a lot about the history of Chinese immigrants in the UK. And that was a very illuminating experience because I feel like most of the time that experience is not talked about in the mainstream media or in mainstream literature. And I found a lot about the old London Chinatown, which used to be in the East End by Limehouse. So I recommend, like, if you're ever in London, if you go to the East End, go to Limehouse, you can see the street names in Chinese. And the museum, London Museum of Docklands, is very useful. The London Imperial War Museum in Lambeth as well. A lot about what it was like as an immigrant living in that time. And it also led me to the story about the Chinese sailors who lived who fought alongside British soldiers during World War II. And they, after the war was over, they were deported back to China by the British government. And lots of their family didn't know what happened. And there are still many stories by the children of these sailors today who are still searching for their missing fathers and still searching for what happened to their families. So this is while I was writing this book, this was history that I was fortunate enough to study and fortunate enough to read about. And so I really urge you guys to people who are unfamiliar with this history to find out more and ask questions and be curious, because I do think there are so many of these stories that we need to be aware of, and we need to include also in our understanding of what it is to be part of the human race. So I'm going to I was asked to read a little bit of an extract from the book. So I'm going to choose. It's not going to be long, don't worry, because I feel like sometimes when someone reads out an extract, we're like, oh, when is this going to end? I'm going to read out a little little piece from a chapter called Joshua and Lily, 1988. So this is to give a little bit of context. Joshua and Lily are the parents, and it's about the time when they start to meet and fall in love. So Joshua and Lily, 1988. Timing is imperative when it comes to love. Lily had always believed this. Meeting the right person does not matter if the circumstances are not aligned, if both of you are in different stages of your lives. You might be entangled for a while, sometimes even for longer than a while, but eventually the wires would always get crisscrossed or severed. It is inevitable. Timing, Lily always said, gives love wings. If timing had not cooperated, she would not have decided to go to that New Year's Eve party at Islington on the last day of 1987. She would never have stood outside, smoking by Pauline's rose bushes, and met Joshua. A month or so later, if timing had not been on her side, Pauline would not have suggested going for Chinese after class one evening. And they would not have ended up in the restaurant where Joshua worked, exactly when he was working. Lily would not have worn her yellow dress, her turquoise earrings, sat down at the table with her friends, and almost gasped when he walked briskly over, a notepad and pencil in hand, ready to take their order. His eyes swept over her face, and then he said, just one small change. She and her friends could have gone somewhere else. He could have been assigned a different shift. Her mother could have birthed her a week later. She could have taken a wrong turn down a road once, and their love would never have materialized. But Joshua would disagree. Love, Joshua said, does not hinge upon timing. Instead, the opposite is true. Why fear time when fundamentally it is what you make of it? If he had not agreed to go with Kevin to that party in Islington, if Lily and her friends had not shown up at his restaurant a month or so later, love would find other ways to bend time to its shape, to its design. Other things would have fallen into place. On a different day, perhaps, under a different sky, they would have eventually met, their lives intertwining and molding into one. Fate made it inevitable. She might even be in the same yellow dress, with turquoise in her ears, her face lighting up in surprise as their eyes met. And she would say, oh, it's you. So that's a little bit from the book. And before I say,
We do have a couple of people that have asked questions.
yes.
And then if there are anyone in the room who wants to ask any questions,
Yes.
should I tee you up while you're being shy? Have a think. The first one is from Jean. Was there any time you wanted your characters to visit that you just couldn't make work, or ended up on the editing room floor?
The quick answer to that question is no. Because if you actually read the book, the sci-fi element of the book is not as heavy as the character stuff in the books. So I'm not a big sci-fi reader, so most of the book is very character based, and so the time periods in the book are time periods that are very central to who the characters are. And so the 1970s in Hong Kong, for example, is very was chosen because it's basically key to Joshua's character. And there's a lot of 1920s and 1930s London, like leading up to the Second World War. And I chose that period because I'm very interested in that time period, especially the Second World War through the viewpoint of people of color, which I feel like it's not very like much written about. So those are the two main time periods, and I never actually thought about having the characters go to any other time periods, which which probably tells out like maybe I'm not a great like sci-fi writer. Yes, that's the answer.
The follow-up question for Kate, which is, do you think of yourself as a sci-fi writer?
No. I think like before I wrote this, I don't read a lot of sci-fi, and I remember when I was actually writing this book, Laura suggested, I think she's, oh, do you maybe you should read Stephen Hawking's book. What's it called? Like Brief History of Time. Yeah, and I just went like usually I do everything my lecturers tell me to because I'm Asian, but but when Laura suggested that, I just went, I'm good. I just went no. So yeah, I think I did a lot of I read a lot of books that are more kind of like magical realism books and maybe like more like speculative fiction. And but but in terms of sci-fi, I watch a lot of Doctor Who. So I think that helps. Blink, the episode Blink, and Vincent and the Doctor. Those two episodes are great, like standalone kind of great short episodes that are very use time travel in a more like character-based sense. And another movie is Richard Curtis, like About Time. I know some people say it's a bit controversial in certain areas, but yes, it's I was inspired by that film not because of the story itself, but because of the fact that they use time travel more as a metaphor, and how it's basically a very contained story about a father and son. So that's sort of what I try to do with this book. So not a big sci-fi writer.
Are there any questions for anyone in the group?
I think like most of the people here know me.
Yeah.
Yeah. I wrote on there's a board that I set up where you can write if you could travel back in time, where would you go, and then post it up there so everyone's free to do that. And I wrote to see pirates. But I think I would, like I said, I would travel back to like stuff like the time period where lots of my book is set. I would really love to. I'm very interested in World War II history, and I think I would love to see that experience, that lived experience through the eyes of people that we usually wouldn't get stories of. Like the whole like Chinatown in the East End was a story that I didn't thought existed. Or like the Chinese sailors in World War II. Like this is history that I didn't know existed because we don't talk about it, or it's not portrayed in films or in movies or in movies, TV shows or books. So I would love to go back and explore all that.
Did anyone else have a burning question? Yeah, go for it.
Yeah, the vibes is a huge thing. I feel like my writing is just vibes, not a lot of that, not a lot of what, yeah, just vibes. Yeah, I remember when I was doing this, and you were like, oh, this might make it hard to get published, and yeah, I was very inspired by this poet from Manchester. I think her name is Yisa Daly Ward. So she wrote a memoir called The Terrible, but it's all written in poetry form. And it was the first time where I read a memoir that's written that way, and that blew my mind. I was like, wow, this adds so much more to the story because it adds like rhythm, it adds like emotions, it adds like a musicality to it. So when I was writing this, and I felt like especially scenes that are set in the past or scenes that are when the characters are time traveling, I wanted to use that poetry form because I think it's an interesting way for us to explore our memories, like how we remember things. Because I think like when we remember things, sometimes we misremember, or it has a kind of like nostalgic sheen, or it just flows differently, like when you dream. So I feel like using that kind of poetry format just helps that come to the surface more. So yeah, so it's definitely a niche niche. I'm not sure if I'm gonna keep that up, but I found it very freeing when I was writing it. So that was kind of exciting as well. Yeah. Oh, hi. Yeah, it's okay. Yeah. So for those who don't know, Teresa Tang is a very famous Taiwanese. I think she's Taiwanese singer. She's already passed now, but she's very famous among like Asians, among Chinese people. And this is one of the Moon Represents My Heart is one of her very famous songs. So I recommend the people like looking it up. It's a very beautiful song. So I decided to use this song because it's very central to my childhood memories. I think like those when I was young, I would listen to this song in the car with my parents, and it's also a song that my grandparents knew as well. And it makes me so happy every time I run into like a Chinese person who would like recognize the title of the book, and they'll come up to me and say, "Oh, is it the Teresa Tang song?" And they would have a story of their own, like, "Oh, I sang this song at karaoke with my mom," or "It's my mom's like favorite song," or "It's like my dad's favorite song." And that I feel like that because I feel people of the Chinese diaspora we're scattered all over the world. Some of us can speak Chinese, some of us mix, but I think like this song kind of bonds us all together. And that's what it does in this book. So if you read the book, the song and her music sort of plays in the background as something the characters would listen to as a family. And I think the song itself, if you search up the lyrics, it really sums up what it means to like have that kind of love, that family love, that's just that, and just yeah, if you wonder if someone loves you, just look at the moon. The moon represents my heart. So I will always love you like the moon. So so that's why I decided to go with the title and what the song means in the book.
If there are no more burning questions, then I'm going to give you a pen so you can scribble in some books if anyone wants a signature.
Yeah, but before that, can I I want to thank again like everyone for like coming, like especially people who I know from my time like living in Edinburgh, because like if it weren't for this like time living in Edinburgh, if it didn't want for me like coming to study creative writing at Napier, like all of this would not have happened. So I want to thank like all my creative writing course mates for coming, like, and you guys like inspire me so much with your like friendship and also with your creativity. Like you guys are amazing writers. Like and also people from the current creative writing cohorts as well. Like it's been so lovely meeting you guys and also David and Laura. Like if this book would not like literally would not have happened without the two of you. And so I want to like tell you guys how much I appreciate that. And also my family, my brother Paul and my parents coming all the way from Thailand. And that means a lot. So lots of the stories about our family. So that and I want to thank you guys at the Lighthouse Bookshop as well for like having me. I don't know if you have a bit of time, like a few more like minutes, but yes. So in 2020, just before COVID hit, I was doing this thing where I was trying to go to open mic nights and read out my writing and read out my poetry. And one of the places that was open for us to do that was the Lighthouse Bookshop. And so that was such a great, so I want to commend you guys for like always being such a safe space for like writers of color or like writers who feel like they're marginalized to have a space and to have a voice. And I remember in 2020, like I did a reading here, and I read out a poem that I wrote about my grandfather who passed a few years ago. And a lot of this book is about him and about his relationship with my dad, and a lot about my relationship with my dad. And so if you guys will indulge me for a few minutes, I would love to read what I read the last time I was at the Lighthouse Bookshop, which is, I wouldn't call it a poem because it doesn't really rhyme, but this like piece called Looking Back about my grandfather. So I think it'll be a nice place to end. And thanks everyone again for coming. So looking back, the memories come in waves, and I'm thinking of you now more than I ever did when you were still alive. I suppose when someone passes away, this is what you tend to do. You look back. You begin to see things you never noticed before. First you prod, you search, but then you lie still and let the tide wash over you. When you were here, I thought I knew you only in moments. Flashes of memories darted throughout the course of my 25 years of life. When you patted my head after I bid you goodbye. You singing Chinese karaoke in your house that smelled of spices and incense. Your smile when I came to you with my report cards. How tightly you gripped my hand when you were lying in the hospital bed, too weak to speak, with tears welling up in your eyes. I never thought that those flashes of moments could ever count towards truly knowing you. I never thought that we were alike in any way. I never thought that sharing the same blood would be enough to make two silent strangers one and the same. Oh, how wrong I was. It takes you being gone for me to realize that in every punctuation, in every word, in every sentence, there is a piece of your soul in everything I write. So yeah, I hope you guys enjoy the book. If you're friends with me, you actually don't have to read it. But yes, thank you so much for coming. Hope you guys enjoy the nibbles, the wine. You can write stuff on the board, take pictures with the Polaroid camera, make new friends. Yeah, thanks again.
Yeah, you can enjoy the space. There is still wine and there are still nibbles. So do enjoy them while you are here. And yeah, thanks for coming. I'm gonna go turn off the camera. Be very proud. Yeah, there you go. Oh, I got the phone.
Yes.